Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave. It's Jem here and today we are going to be doing something a little bit special. I don't share Enchanted Forest by Johanna Basford on my channel ever. It's the one book that I like to keep for myself and just, have something that's just my own. However, under the circumstances, we're now very close to moving. This has come out and we're just going to do a bit of a sort of relaxed colour and chat style video with this. I'll have a lot of new subscribers that haven't seen any of my Johanna Basford stuff, so just to explain very quickly about this book. This was the very first colouring book that I was given, and for a long time it was the only one I had before I really got into adult colouring. So this is actually like a documentation of my colouring journey from start to finish, so this book's quite special to me. I am working through it front to back. I have never done any of the pages out of order and I'm determined that I'm going to complete it this year. So I'm about 2/3 of the way through and this was the last page that I worked on, so this is what we're going to be doing today. I haven't actually touched this page or my Prismacolor pencils since August of last year, so I am going to be super rusty. Interestingly though, and in my organisational wonder, I have actually kept out the pencils that I was using the last time I coloured. I have no idea how these have managed to stay like around and be in the right order, but here they are, so excuse the rustiness. I'm just going to get going with this and just see what we can do. So as you can see, this is her coming up to, or him, could be him I suppose, whoever's on the adventure is coming up to the gates of the castle, and this is kind of like the coming to the end of the story, so to speak, or the adventure. And I've decided to make it nighttime because there was little stars in the sky. So I've got these two little lanterns, and although you can't see it very clearly, there is a glow round the lanterns that I've put in a really pale cream pencil. So when I start to work over the top here with my greens for my leaves, that's going to lighten up the colours and look as if they're, being reflected and off the glow of the candle from the little lantern. So there you go. That's the preface. Now we can get on with it. I haven't decided entirely what I'm going to do in here in the background. Obviously I've got to continue this on down, but I'm still giving that a little bit of thought. So I thought I'd come down here. It's been a long time since I've coloured some leaves. So the pencils that I'm working with are all Prismacolors, and the 3 pencils that I've been using for the leaves up until this point, if anybody would like to use it as a combination, I've PC948 and that is sepia. I've also got chartreuse, PC989. And lastly I've got marine green, which is PC988. Try and put that in the light so that you can see it. There you go. So what I'm trying to do here is make this transition up in these top leaves here. I used quite a lot of sepia at the top of the leaves because they're furthest away from my light source, which is down here. But as we come down, we're going to phase out the sepia altogether and we're going to switch to more chartreuse the closer we get to this little lamp here. So that is the idea. Now I do have a very light pencil line which you probably can just see, and that was my border for the outer edge of the glow from the lamp. And I've just left it in so when I start colouring the leaves I know when I should be transitioning the colours. And once again I'm really surprised I've remembered that. It's because ages ago, feels like a lifetime ago. This was obviously my tester leaf in terms of using the lighter colours, so I'm just going to try and sort of bridge that gap now and get these parts to join together. This one's not even finished though. And it's really weird using Prismacolor pencils because it's been so long since I've used them, and to be fair I do usually favour, if I'm using premium pencils, I do favour Polychromos over Prismacolor, and sometimes I forget how soft these are because they are super soft. But this will make a nice change. It's been a while since I've done anything like this at all. Okay, so I've started, there's a tiny bit of chartreuse in this leaf here, so I think that's really where we want to start transitioning these shades down. Now I do have quite a lot of pencil marks inside here, so I'm just going to grab an eraser. I don't have a lot of art supplies left out now, but I do still have my Derwent eraser out. That's actually going to get packed away later today. Today is the day I've been dreading, where I'm going to pack all my other coloured pencils, and that means I'll only have my Prismacolors left out, so I don't know. It's like taking away a security blanket, like no, don't do it. So again, the edge of the glow is kind of like coming in an arc around this leaf here, so I'm going to keep most of the chartreuse centred and to this left hand side, and we'll have a sort of heavier layer of marine green just on the outside here. And Prismacolor pencils are great for this. They're so good for blending, and they blend with ease, so when you're working on a lot of little itty bitty bits like this, it's really helpful. And I know for guys in the US, these pencils are so cheap for you guys, but for the rest of us everywhere else in the world, they are super expensive. And a lot of people will favour other brands of pencils because they can get them for, you know, similar kind of money, and it's easier to get them open stock and whatnot. To be fair, Prismas are widely available in the UK, but they're just expensive for what they are, I think, anyway. That is just my opinion. I'll build up the chartreuse a little bit now. And I'm maybe going to pop a little bit of the marine green along the top here. You do get really nice rich colour out these pencils. I have been using quite a lot of budget pencils recently, or not even budget pencils, but cheaper pencils, and it's only when you go back after a spell like this that you realise how good these pencils are. I'm just going to pop in a wee bit more chartreuse down here as well. I just feel as if there's not enough in that one. There we go. I can take my pencil lines out here now as well, because I've added like this, I'm going to have like an extra part in here and make this a wall in behind here, and that's not in the original drawing, so that's where all these pencil lines have come from. Now this one's tucked in behind, so although I would favour some chartreuse down there, that is going to have a wee bit of darker colour. I might even pop a wee bit of sepia in there. So I'll get the marine green down first. Where is my sepia? My sepia pencil, look, it's looking a bit sad, isn't it? I've also packed away my Tagal sharpener, which is my preferred sharpener for these Prismacolors, because you can get a short stubby point on them. So I just have, I've got the waste bin down beside me, and I'm using my M&R Bullet Brass sharpener, which is one of my favourite sharpeners for my graphite pencils. This does a fairly good job, although it does put quite a long point on your pencils, but I'm not sharpening them within an inch of their lives, you know, it's not like completely pointy, and that's just in case I break it by accident. So we just go easy with that, but sharp enough to get a wee bit of detail in without it causing me any issues. So there we go, just pop. So there's my wee shadow in now. You can see it's quite delicate, it's quite subtle. And I'll bring this up. I'm going over the top of my shadow with the chartreuse though. Just pop a wee bit in there, I think. And then back to this marine green. I use this colour a lot. I've gone through a lot of these pencils. Obviously with Prismacolors having really soft cores, you do tend to use them up more quickly than some of the other brands, but this is my 4th marine green in 4 years. So yeah, you can tell it's a colour I use a lot. But then again, I do like to colour a lot of foliage and things, so that kind of makes sense, because it is a really good sort of earthy colour for that. So yeah, things are all go today. It's Sunday, but we have now got, we don't have keys to the new house yet, but we have access to one like wing of the house, if you like. And the people that are in have already started moving all their things out, and we're still like, we're just under 2 weeks to go. And they have let us, they've locked off this like side of the house for us so we can start moving some things in. So Mr. Jem is actually filling up the trailer. He's back from Ireland and he's filling up the trailer as I'm sitting here doing this, and he's going to take a run up today with the trailer and just put some stuff in, so we're actually starting the moving process a little bit easier. So when it comes to the actual weekend that we're going to move, we'll have slightly less to move, which was quite nice. So anyway, he's happy just to get on with that, but he's going to be coming in shortly and I'm going to help him load some boxes up into the trailer. So I said I would make a start on this because you guys won't notice an intermission. Now I'm not feeling this shadow. It's not deep enough, so I'm going to take my espresso, which is even smaller. Again, I've only got one pencil extender left out, and I've got a pencil in it. And see, switching them over, it's a pest. So just for things like this, I'll just grin and bear it. It is still long enough to hold on to though, so I'll just run that along the line of the leaf in front, and that'll just make that pop out a little bit more. And then I can maybe pop, hi woo, maybe just pop a little bit more of that marine green in there. Now if you don't go too heavy handed with stuff like this, you can come back if you decide that the colours aren't quite right, you know, the shift between those darker colours and lighter colours. If you don't burnish, you know, squash down the tooth of the paper, you can always come back later and add a little bit more of the colour that you think's lacking. We've got one that's tucked in behind here as well, and behind our little birdie friend here, so let's just get that done as well. And again, I think that's mostly going to be a darker one. Turn this slightly. And again, because it's tucked in behind our birdie friend, but I imagine it would see some of the light. So I'm just using like the normal method I would use, and you know, I'm mapping out colours, but I'm just being a little bit more free with it because this is such a transitional set of colours that we're using here. And it's funny now, I think over the last, I would say the last maybe 8 or 9 months, my colouring style has really sort of come on and developed. And really, I mean, I wouldn't, if I was to go back and start this over now, I wouldn't use these colours and I wouldn't colour it the same way. And that has come purely from colouring in Thomas Kincaid's Disney Dreams collection book. I just do it a different way now because I've started really looking at things, and you know, if I was picking out colours for leaves, I'd pick out greens, but I'm like varying the different types of colours, and I'm layering pencil more than I used to. I've always blended colours together, but I am layering a lot more now. So I'm going to try and keep this in the style of the old way that I would colour, you know what I mean by that. And just try and match it up as best I can, but I think going forward I may not colour it in exactly the same fashion. And that's going to happen when you've been colouring as long as I have, because this will be nearly, in fact it might even be more than 4 years now, albeit not fanatically, but you know, it's going to affect how you do things. If you keep trying new things, and everybody knows that I'm not scared to try stuff out. So, you know, things are going to evolve, your style's going to change, your preferences are going to change. Okay, we've got one down in here and behind, and I have a feeling that it's going to get like almost the full force of the light. So I think I'll just make that one chartreuse for now. I can always change my mind later. And then we've got this one as well. Get that marine green in there. Just blend that out a little bit. Okay, so we've got another one on the edge of this glowing area as well, so again that's going to be darker on this outside edge. I absolutely love this book as well. I've got quite a few of Johanna's books. I don't have all of them, but I've got quite a few of them, and I think that this is my favourite, but I think it's because it was the first book I had. Like, it's more my favourite because of the sentimental value rather than the contents. I don't have Lost Ocean, and it's a book that I don't think, to be honest, I would purchase because there is a lot of very intricate, teeny tiny and sort of pattern type pictures in it, and I'm not really into that. But the other books, Ivy and the Inky Butterfly is a beautiful book. It is absolutely lovely. I really like it, and I like the concept behind it, you know, the storybook concept. But I think Enchanted Forest is always going to be my favourite. And Secret Garden is very similar. There's a lot of similarities between that and Enchanted Forest, so I think that's why I've never bought that either. Maybe if I finish this I might buy another one. Not that I need any more colouring books, obviously, like that goes without saying. have so many books, and you guys are so generous as well. I mean, I've got books that you guys have sent me, and you know, I've got plans to do videos on them, but for like just my personal colouring, I still don't think I need to buy any books. I have a strong feeling that after I finish this, I feel a bit of a marathon coming on with Hannah Carlson and Kirby Rosanna's. I'm having like Kirby withdrawal symptoms. I need to colour in one of his books soon, and that might be a project for the not too distant future once we've got moved. It's really funny because like everything I say just now, it's like after we've moved. But we're in, I hate this last like week or so before you move. It's like you're really in limbo, and you know, you're trying to kind of get all the loose ends tied up and stuff, and I absolutely hate it because I am a total homebody, and I like to be organised and settled, and I like my routine as well, because I'm like a little creature of habit, like, but really badly. So I really just want to, I'm at the stage now, I just want to get into the new house and get that unpacking chaos sorted out. But we've got workmen coming in and all sorts, so there's a long way to go. There really is. Okay, just while I've got the chartreuse here, I am going to do this one as well, because it's directly in the glow of the lantern. And the same with this one as well. Now, the way I've put the glow out round the lantern, it's kind of coming out in a triangular shape like this, because the cap in the bottom would be blocking some of that light. So although this one is directly in the line of sight of the candle, this bottom part might have a little darker bit to it where the light's being blocked off by the bottom part of that lantern. So I'm just going to kind of put like a C shape of this marine green in down here, and then I'll just blend it out. And it's wee things like that, that's quite subtle, you know, it's not going to make or break my picture, but when you see it, when the picture's completed, then it's going to, you know, it's just going to be one of those little things that just helps to finish it off quite nicely. So as I'm colouring and as I work my way down here, I am just thinking about the shape of this light source and how it's going to fall on these leaves. And this is something that is not essential. If you're a newer colourist, you really don't have to worry about stuff like this. But if you are a little bit more advanced, then it's actually quite nice because it gives you a wee bit of a challenge. You know, you're not just straight colouring, but by the same token, it's not something that's horrendously complicated, you know, and you're using 18 pencils to colour a leaf or anything. But already you can see that starting to take shape, and it's very obvious that there is a light source there, and because it's going to be symmetrical as well, because we're going to do the same on this side eventually, then I think that's going to look quite nice when it's finished. The other thing that's really nice about Prismacolors as well is if you don't want to spend ages layering up your pencil, on most papers you can go down in hard with one layer of pencil and you can cover quite a large area quite quickly, and it's just because they're so soft. It's not something that I tend to do or tend to favour, but every now and then it's quite nice, you get that sort of quick fix. This page is so grubby. Just rub off. There's still, even though I've sprayed fixative on the opposite page, it was done with pan pastels, and it's quite dark, so there's still a little bit of transfer. It's made my page look a wee bit grubby. Again, maybe just like a tickle of this marine green. So underneath here, these ones are like directly underneath. There's still going to be some light on them, but it's not going to be as intense. So maybe just a little layer of the marine green, and then we can maybe blend that out with some chartreuse. Again, I might come back to that. I'll wait and see how it looks once we've kind of finished the other parts. I was taught when I started to learn to draw, some of the best advice I was ever given was take regular breaks to take a step back and look at what you're doing and look at the big picture, and always jump around when you're drawing. That doesn't apply quite as much to colouring, but it's still useful information because you do get a better sense of it. You can actually be too close to something, and I'm sure you've all heard the saying, when you can't see the wood for the trees. So I do apply that quite regularly, especially if I'm doing something like this and I'm working on a sort of graduated idea. Because sometimes you can get a little bit carried away and you take things too far, and before you know where you are, you've got your dark colours too far up or too far down, and you think, oh, okay, oops. Now we're getting into sort of ropey territory down here because I do want the light, obviously the light will still illuminate this whole bit, it's not going to be as dark as up the top here, but I need to get that balance between these two colours. So again, I'm going to put the chartreuse down, And then I'm just going to lightly go over the top of it, but cover most of the leaf this time with a little bit of that marine green. And then just blend it out. So you can see that there is a difference between what this colour here and what's going on down here, but it's a lot more subtle than what's going on up the top. So that's kind of, I'm going to try that and see how that goes, but that should work quite well. And we can maybe intensify that as we get down here. You know, there might be quite a bit more sort of shady, shadowy colours down at this very bottom part next to the rocks. The other option would be to use the colour Lime Peel here as well, but I think you have more control over it when you're doing it in layers. Again, this is just back to what I was talking about layering pencil, rather than just using one solid colour. And that's the nice thing about Prismacolors as well. I know the colours well, and you know, I know all the pencil colours quite well, and I can pick things out with having to look at my swatch book a lot of the time. And that's just familiarity, that comes with time. And I'm sure there's quite a lot of you out there that are like that with Prismacolors and possibly Polychromos as well. I was just thinking about it when I was talking about that marine green pencil. The same with chartreuse. This is my third, I think it's my third chartreuse pencil. Again, it's a colour I seem to use quite a lot. I use it as a highlight colour for leaves quite a lot. Now we're maybe starting to get a little bit darker as we head down here, as we're heading away from that lantern. What do we think to that? It's looking not bad, not bad. I do think now when we come down round here, we're going to have to start really sort of darkening things up a bit. So let's try a little layer of chartreuse here. And then we'll pile on a bit of the marine green, and we'll try and darken it down. So I'm using this one next to it as like my reference leaf, if you like. So I want it to be darker than the one above it. And I'll just jump in between the pencils as I see fit. Okay, that's better. Yep, that's pretty good. It is quite a balance, trying to do it subtly enough that it looks gradual, but actually, you know, getting there and making that difference. That's just a wee bit of a balancing act sometimes. So again, with this one, there's definitely going to be more marine green down the bottom here as we get further and further away from that light. The same with this one. This one's going to be more or less the same. It's on the sort of same plane. I don't know if you can hear my cows mooing outside. They've not been fed yet. They can hear everyone in the yard. So they know, like, when they hear the machinery going in the yard, they know that it's nearly feeding time, and that's when they start to get quite vocal. Like half an hour ago, they were absolutely fine. They were quiet. Nope, they know there's food on the go. Again, this one's kind of tucked in behind, so I might have a little bit more of a defined shadow just down this edge here. You know, make that quite obvious. I might even add a wee bit of sepia in there too. So really now, as I'm working my way down here, it's literally just like one layer of chartreuse on the bottom and then one on the top to kind of blend it together. Just working my way around the outside here, because this is going to be the darkest part. Moo. Okay, so as I come down here, I'm going to cut out the chartreuse gradually and kind of not go back to the sepia. I might use a wee tiny bit of sepia, but I'm just going to be using the marine green and just varying my pressure in different parts of the leaves. And I think we'll start with this one. And that's maybe only going to have a tiny spot of the chartreuse up here. I'm really sorry, guys. They're so noisy. The thing is as well, just now, because we are calving, we have cows calving, the younger ones, in terms of like the feeding regime, the youngest ones are at the bottom of the pile because obviously the nursing mothers need fed first. It's important that they have a steady supply of feed because they're nursing. So these younger animals, and I say younger animals, they're still big. They're like almost full sized, but they're not breeding. So and they're fat. They're plenty fat. So they have to wait until a bit later in the day before they get before they get fed. But they do get fed at roughly the same time every day, so it's not like they're starved. It's just because they know everyone else is getting fed and they're not. Right guys, that's Mr. Jem coming to pack up some stuff, so I will be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Okay, that's me sorted Mr. Jem out, so I've kind of lost the place here. Oh yes, we were down here. We're going to darken down these leaves, aren't we? That's what we were up to. Yes, that's me packed Mr. Jem up. The truck in the trailer is full and he is going up to the new place, so he's going to be away for a number of hours now, which means I can get on, get this done and get some packing done as well. We are getting there with the packing slowly but surely. Okay, so we're into just a tickle of the chartreuse here, aren't we? Yes, that was what we were doing. And then back with the marine green. It's funny, we were just having a discussion there. The part of the new house where our offices are, there's basically Mr. Jem's office, and then there's a corridor with a toilet at the end, you know, like just what we would call a cloakroom. And then on the other side of the hall is my office. But that's kind of like, it's not part of the main part of the farmhouse. It kind of sticks out in a bit on its own. And we found out that it does actually face west, so we can call it the West Wing, which I just think's hilarious. That's really tickled me today. It was quite amusing. So that's going to be an interesting setup, but it means that Mr. Jem is able to get to his office from outside of the house, because there's a door. It used to be the front door of the house originally, and it means he can come in even if he's not that clean, and he can get straight into his office, because the door into his office is literally right beside the front door, and he doesn't have to come through the rest of the house. So that's quite handy, and it means I have a better chance of keeping the rest of the house clean, which is the constant battle. Anybody that has ever lived or worked on a farm will tell you that's the struggle, trying to keep the place clean. I'm part of a group on Facebook, and this came up in discussion the other day, and it's I think it's called something like DIY farmhouse style, and someone had gone on there and asked why, if it's farmhouse style, is everything white, you know, because a lot of this rustic pine furniture has been painted white. And they basically said that anybody in their right mind that actually lives on a farm has like the minimal amount of white stuff anywhere, because it's impossible to keep clean. And that really tickled me, because this house that we're in just now, all the walls are magnolia everywhere, and it's just a nightmare, and I spend a lot of time wiping walls down. So we were having a discussion and saying we were going to start a farmhouse style Facebook group that's actually like practical proper farmhouse decor. That tickled me as well. It's just one of those things that just makes you laugh a little bit. And the furniture and everything's lovely, and I really like that sort of white rustic farmhouse style, but I just couldn't have anything like that, because the whole place would look grubby all the time. And you know, I was saying, like, in the summertime it's just a dust bowl here between harvesting crops, and just a lot of the yards are dirt, you know, it's packed dirt, it's not concrete or anything. And the minute there's a bit of a wind picks up, then all the dust just blows about, and then just now we're like up to our ankles in mud like every day, just because it's wet all the time. So yeah, not ideal really. Right, let's start to darken this down a little bit now. So start to press a wee bit heavier, try and get a few more layers in here. And just put a wee bit of chartreuse there, I think. I'm all sort of like snotty and stuff now, because it's absolutely freezing outside. It is bitter cold, and there's a wind. And the first thing that happens is when you come inside is your nose starts to run. There we go, and get this nice and dark. I'm needing to put a wee bit of a point on my marine green again. Yeah, so I may be thinking for this particular leaf, this is quite a big one, I might just pop a hint of sepia down in this bottom corner here. Maybe a little bit in here as well. Again, just a wee layer, nothing drastic. And then I can build on top of that. The other thing about having been outside as well, my hand's cramped up, it's quite stiff, and I can feel it even when I'm holding the pencil. Down here, it gets really, really sore. It's just a side effect of coming in from the cold, and when I was outside I didn't have any gloves or anything on, so it's kind of to be expected. It's not bad enough to make me want to stop colouring right off. Yeah, that's it. I'm quite happy. I'm looking down this right hand side here, and I'm quite happy with the way that the colours have graduated up to palest and then back down. And with this bottom one just right in the corner here, I'm going to put a little bit more sepia, you know, just step it up again. There we go. Not many left to go here now, actually. In my head, I'm kind of like planning things in my head as I'm sitting doing this, and I think that if I get through enough packing today, I might just sit and do the other side of this tonight, you know, while it's fresh in my mind. That might be a nice way to relax for a little while. But today's main job is really just to pack up the rest of the cave. I'll say I have to do the coloured pencils, which I'm dreading. I just need to leave out a few office bits for work. But that's minimal, because I do most things on, you know, on the laptop now. I don't actually have a lot of paperwork in the physical form, so I can pack most that way. But it is time to do taxes, and I haven't done my taxes yet, and that is my first job tomorrow, because tomorrow is Monday. I thought I'll just get it done tomorrow, and that will be it. And I can get on with my life after that. So I need to sort out some paperwork for that, but I can do that first thing. And then that'll be the cave more or less packed. And then it's on to the kitchen, which is terribly exciting. I hate packing the kitchen the most because you think you don't have that much, you know, to pack, but you really do. By the time you've packed all your pots and pans and all that kind of stuff, it soon mounts up. But I'm actually quite glad Mr. Jem's been able to take some boxes today, because it just means when it actually comes to the weekend where we've got the keys, we've just got less to move. But he's going up to the new farm tomorrow anyway, on a business visit, you know, to start sorting stuff out up there. So he's going to take another load of stuff. It'll just be the truck though, he won't have the trailer tomorrow. But you can fit quite a lot in the back of our trucks. So he said that tonight he'll just load the truck up again. And he can take a few more bits and bobs up with him tomorrow, so that would be cool too. I actually don't mind, like, the packing process is fine, like I don't mind the packing at all. It's actual moving day that I find quite stressful, because there's a lot of things I don't have control over. And nearly every time that we've moved, something's been broken or damaged, and you're always going to have a few casualties, but it's been quite major stuff. The only time we've moved and we've never had any mishaps was the one time that Mr. Jem and I moved ourselves. We like hired a van. In the States it would be a U-Haul. And we literally packed, loaded and moved ourselves. And it's the only time where everything has arrived at the other end in one piece. And that was one of our bigger moves. That was when we moved to England. And that's, you know, that's a fair distance. It's like a 7.5 hour drive. So that's pretty far in the UK. I know for like you guys in Australia and America that doesn't sound like a lot, but considering you can get, you know, from one end of the country to the other, I mean from the top end of Scotland down to the bottom end of England in like 14 hours on a good day, you know, it's a fair distance. So yeah, I'm always a little bit antsy about other people moving my things. But anything that's really valuable, the likes of my drawing tablet, I've got 2 really nice guitars as well. Things like that, they will be coming in a vehicle with me or in Mr. Jem's truck. They will not be getting moved in with the rest of the stuff. It's like our kitchen table, we've got a big farmhouse kitchen table and it's pretty battle scarred. It's done a lot of moving about, but it adds character to that. I don't mind that. But there's other things that you know, you think, oh man. When we moved here, I lost an entire set of dinner plates. They weren't my good dinner plates, thankfully. But I maintain that the people that moved us, they must have stacked too many boxes on top. The plates were all stacked on top of each other, but they were bubble wrapped in between, and every single plate was broken straight down the middle in half, all the way, the whole box. And I never got any compensation for that. I was quite angry about that because they tried to blame it on my packing. Now all the other plates that I had were fine and they were packed exactly the same way. So I really wasn't best amused. But what can you do? Right, okay, that is looking... Oh no, I've still got 2 down here. Premature. Come on, Jem. I forgot these 2 down here. So we'll have a lot more sepia in these ones, I think. Because I've got a feeling they might be in behind. You know, they might be in the shadow of this one as well. Because it's kind of overlapping a little bit in front of them. Okay, there we go. What do we think to that then, guys? Does that look okay? Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I've just got the right balance, I'm hoping. I say I might change my mind. Once I've coloured the rest of the picture, I might change my mind, but we'll see. Now I'm having a look at the vine that I've done up here, and I really don't know what colours that I've used. I do have dark brown out, which is PC946, so I'm thinking that that's what I've been using. It certainly looks like it, so we'll go with that theme. We'll say that that's what's happening. But I will have to go into a lighter brown again when I get down into here. So I'm going to have to pick something out. So I might just have, I've actually still got my swatch book just now as well. That's something else, it will get packed in with my pencils, which kind of makes sense. Let's see what we've got. So if we're going from dark brown, which is somewhere over here, dark brown is here. Sienna's too red, so I was going to go with sienna brown, but it's quite red. Might go to chocolate. Or light umber. I think light umber would be better, because I do want, the same as I've done with the greens, I do want quite a contrast, you know, when the part where it comes into the light. Okay, let's see if I can dig out light sienna. My pencils are all the way over here. Bit of a stretch. Let's see. Light umber. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. Right, let's go with that then. Get this down. I was using something darker over the top as well, and I've got a feeling it might have been black because I have that out as well. Or it could have been, what was I using earlier? Espresso. Might have been espresso. It looks suspiciously like black though. This is the problem when you leave things like this too long. I think I'll put a little layer of that down, and I might just sneak in a little bit of this lighter colour here. Light umber, that's what we decided it was. And just bring it in gradually, but at this sort of weird angled pointy part, I don't know what you call that, I might pop in a little bit of the espresso. Again, just a hint, it's nothing that's going to like change your picture, you know, it's not life changing, but it's all those little subtle parts that you bring in, that just when it all, you know, every little bit that you add on, when it all comes together, it just kind of makes a bit more of a difference, I think. I'm just going to pop the espresso in here as like a bit of a shadow. Again, it's quite subtle, you probably wouldn't notice it unless someone pointed it out to you, but just adding in those wee extras. See, there's a bit kind of tucked in behind here, so I'm not going to faff about and fiddle about with that. I'll just put the straight dark brown down in there for all that it is. And yeah, we want to get into the light umber here. Again, just blend that in there. Get this looking nice. And when it comes back out here, it's not in, like, directly in the light source. So I'll take I'm going to take the dark brown, and I'm going to try and sharpen it to quite a fine point here, because I just want to run that round the outside edge, you know, furthest away from the light source. Okay, that's a little bit better. I say I'm frightened to take it to too much of a point in case it breaks. I'll zoom in a wee bit here just to show you as well. You can see a little bit closer. See what I'm doing here? So I'm really just thickening up that outside line art, and if I go over the top of it and outside the lines a wee bit, it doesn't really matter because it's quite dark anyway. But now if I take this lighter colour and try not to blend it in too much, obviously you don't want it to be too stark lines, but when I go over the top of that there, you can see there's a very slight difference between the colour here and what's going on up here. I will, however, still go back to the espresso for a shadow colour. So again, that's just thinking about which way the light's going to cast the shadow. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I've got these wee thorns as well. It is such a tight space though, you don't need to deliberate too much over stuff like that. Yeah, that looks okay. I've got a dark brown here. This one is slap bang in the middle of the shiny part, so that's going to be quite light, and so is this one. Now again, we're back to this same situation. Some of the light's going to be blocked by the bottom part of this lantern, so we might be better with a layer of that dark brown down first. And then we can go over it with the light umber. And bring this down round here as well. So as I did with the chartreuse and the marine green, I'm just doing exactly the same thing with the umber and the brown. You know, following the same sort of rule, if you know what I'm saying, in terms of the ratio of the colours, you know, of how much of each pencil you're using. If these spaces were a bit wider, I would put a little bit more detail in, but really they're too tight to be spending a huge amount of time fiddling about with. That's going to be really dark in there, I think. There we go. And it's funny when you're doing a picture like this, it's these wee intricate bits and you think, oh, there's not really a lot to colour there. But just because they are all sort of sharp angles and one thing and another, it takes you a lot longer to colour things like this than you realise. And before you know where you are, you've been sat for an hour and you've only covered like this much. But that's one of the things about colouring at all, is, you know, you've got to be patient. If you want to colour something quick, pick a simple picture and use markers, because that will give you that sort of instant satisfaction that you just need sometimes. I do get that. I tend to favour Hannah Lynn's colouring when I want to do something like that, because I always look at her pictures and think they need to be coloured with markers, and I don't know why I feel that way, but I have this strong urge to colour them with markers. So I usually do that, and you can cover a lot of ground quickly with markers. And if I can't be bothered blending either, which happens, because blending with markers isn't the easiest thing, and it's certainly not something that I'm proficient in, but I quite often do a base layer in marker and then just fill in some details with pencil. I did do a video on that. I'll stick it in the end card for you. And I did it with, it was actually grey markers I did it with, but obviously you can do it with any colour of marker. But it's quite satisfying and you can finish a picture quite quickly. I quite enjoy it. So that's always good fun. Let's get down in here. I actually did that video in 2 parts. I'll just link the first part though, because if you haven't seen it, you'd want to start at the beginning, one would assume. Get a little more dark brown on the go here. So again, I'm just watching where I've started to transition those green pencils, and I'll make sure I do the same with with these brown ones. Goodness me. I have been really tongue-tied the last few days. I keep sort of tripping over my words. I think it's just tiredness though. Because there's a lot going on just now. The thing is, even without the move, there's still a lot going on at this time of year, so it's just like, I'll just add some more, you know, like add some insult to injury. But we just keep going. That's just what we do. We're farmers, that's what we do. I had guests in the other night, and it was one of the last times I'm going to see them before, you know, when we do move. I don't know how often we're going to see them. And they stayed until nearly 2 o'clock in the morning, and even at that, I mean, I never ever go to bed that late anymore. I just can't, because I'm up really early in the morning, and despite that, I was still up at 6:10, so I literally had like 3 and a bit hours sleep, but god damn, I felt it. 10 years ago that wouldn't have been an issue, it wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference, but yeah, I felt it. I was so tired the next day, and that night I think I was in my bed by 10 o'clock. In my pyjamas going, you need to go to sleep. You just absolutely goosed. It's amazing the difference 10 years makes though. Like when you're in your 20s you can just go and go and go. When you're in your 30s you can still go, you just can't do it repeatedly. I always say that about drinking as well. Will, who is some of you will remember me talking about him, he's the young shepherd that came to us about a year ago, and he's fabulous, and he's the one that's going to be looking after the cows, and he's actually moving into our house. We're giving him accommodation, and he's only in his early 20s, and we were trying to explain to him that you just get to a point, and I used to go out drinking and I didn't get hangovers. I only started getting hangovers when I hit about 29, and then it just all went downhill from there. And he kind of like doesn't believe us because he's like, oh, you guys aren't old, and we're like, no, we know we're not old, but there is a massive difference between doing these kinds of jobs, you know, like heavy manual labour jobs. There's a huge difference in your capabilities and your your exertion levels and also your stamina between like early 20s and early 30s. And I said you won't be able to go out drinking like 3 nights at the weekend. You won't be able to go out Friday, Saturday, Sunday and, you know, still work and get to work on Monday morning without being absolutely shattered. Like, you can still do it, but you won't want to do it. And he doesn't believe us. I was like, oh yes, we'll see. That's what I always say to Mr. Jem. It's not the fact that we can't do these things, it's just that we can't be arsed anymore. It's like we'd rather sit in the house in our pyjamas than go out partying 4 nights a week because we just can't be bothered with the hassle. It's like, nah, we'll just stay in. It's kind of nice though, because when you do get the chance to go out, and again, most of you guys that are regular viewers will know that Mr. Jem and I really don't get a lot of time to do stuff like that. But when we do go out, we always really enjoy ourselves, because it's not a common occurrence. So that's kind of cool. That's the nice thing about it. Plus as well, staying on a farm, logistically it's just not that easy. You know, you can't just go outside, hail a cab and disappear into the town, because it's just not that simple. So it does take a bit more organising. At the new place though, we're not too far from the nearest village, but it is a very windy road. It's not a road you would walk, although it's not too far to walk in terms of distance, but it's not safe to walk it, especially at night, because there's no pavements and there's no street lights, etc. So that's an issue. The very first farm that we were on, and we were just workers there, we were both just, well, we ran the place between us, but the owner used to check in with us every day and like give us a list of jobs and, you know, that kind of thing. And the nearest pub was in this weird little hamlet, and it was literally like a handful of houses, and I think there was a car garage and this hotel, and it was nearly 6 miles to the pub. And on a Sunday we used to go and feed all our animals in the morning and, you know, just get everything done. And then if it was dry and it was a nice day, we used to walk to the pub, and we would take the dogs with us, so it would, you know, it'd take us a while to get there. But it was lovely. If the weather was good enough for it, it was lovely. And by the time you got to the pub, you felt as if you'd earned your first pint. And we used to stay there into the wee small hours. The barman's name was Jeff. Jeff was lovely. I really liked Jeff, and he always looked after us, because when we went to go home, the nearest cab company was in the nearest town, which was like 14 or 15 miles away. So they used to send a cab out to pick us up at the pub to take us further out from the town back to our farm, and then they had to drive back. So we kind of like struck up a deal, and Jeff would phone the cab company like an hour before closing time and say, can you have a cab here, you know, that's going to have time to take these guys home. So he always looked after us, which was really nice. That was kind of cool. And obviously because we had the dogs as well, it had to be a cab that would take the dogs, which again, we got to know the driver. That was quite cool. Right, okay, that was a little story about our past life. What do we think to this? Does it look okay? I'm actually quite pleased with the way it's turning out. I wasn't actually expecting it to turn out quite as well as this. Oh, ye of little faith. But yeah, what I think I'm going to do is, if I've got time tonight, which I really hope I do later on, I'm going to do the other side. So I think once I've done that, I'll maybe post this up on Instagram, or I'll post it on the community page, and you guys can see what it looks like with the two sides together. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because I think that's us. We must be about an hour now, thereabouts, and I shall go and get on with my packing. I hope you've enjoyed this, even if you've not been like paying attention and I'm just wittering away in the background. I'm really glad that you came to hang out with me, so thank you, and I hope you've had a little bit of fun too. But that's it for now. This is the last video. I think I said this at the start of the video. This is the last video I'm actually filming with the proper cave setup. There will be other videos, but after this the rig is coming down today, so there may be a decrease in sound and visual quality, and I don't even know what order I'm putting these videos in yet, so yeah, you'll just have to just bear with me a little bit longer. It won't be long now, I promise, and we shall see you next time back in the cave for another video. Have a great day everyone, and we'll see you later. Bye for now.